Welcome to the Junto Men's Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things relating to men. We explore how to go from good to great, from high performers, and also aim to provide a shining light if you're experiencing darkness in your life. Grab a pen and paper and enjoy the ride. Welcome back to the Junto Podcast. We're here today with Luke Skews. Luke's a professional relationship coach, intimacy coach, and all-round good human. And like I've said to you before, there's not too many men or couples that I've met that wouldn't significantly benefit from some time with yourself and with your business, with yourself and Sindra. And I'm really excited to dive in today around some relationship topics and intimacy topics. So yeah, if you want to do a quick little intro of yourself, that's a bit more. For sure. Yeah, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I've been working in the trade industry for over 15 years, and after going through my own journey with mental health, addiction, relationship issues, growing up, family dramas, everyone's got their story around growing up. I started to work in the mental health space and then transitioned over into the relationship and intimacy support space. And my partner Sindra and I started a business together, Conscious Couples, to help couples reconnect, like light the fire, stoke the fire, keep the fire going. And we've both branched out. She now mostly supports females, and I love to work with men around relationship tools, communication tools, conflict tools, and intimacy and pleasure tools. And it's all of the stuff that we never got taught in sex ed in high school, but it's all of the stuff that we really needed to know before we started relating with people. And, we find ourselves in our, mid-20s, mid-30s, 40s, wherever you are in life, thinking, oh, wow, I've just been trying to figure this out on my own. Might ask for some help with this. It's all the stuff that I wish that I knew when I was 21 and a fool.
It's been such a it's totally changed my relationship. Even just having conversations with you and opening up this conversation over the last couple of months has been amazing, absolutely amazing for our relationship. That's for sure.
You're welcome, Sam.
She's quite happy. So I wanted to dive in really quickly, I guess, initially to, you work with a lot of couples, you work with a lot of men. What are some of the, more common challenges that you're seeing with couples that come to see you?
It's funny, when people come to see us, the problem's never the problem, like deep down. However, some of the problems that are the projection, I guess, that commonly get said to us in initial sessions is there's a libido mismatch. There is a boredom sometimes. There's a lack of desire. There's a lack of passion. There's conflict arising around intimacy a lot of the time. And there's always a underlying desire for more intimacy, more pleasure in their life. However, a lot of the times we will get told the problem rather than what people really want to be experiencing. And a lot of the times, all of the problems that we come down to the balls of it is self-worth, self-love, a willingness to explore and expand within ourselves to be able to bring that to our relationships. But to be honest, a lot of it is, a lack of intimacy. Do you feel, how much do you feel is boiled down to, that lack of intimacy or passion in the relationship? Monotony. A lot of the times we get in a relationship with somebody that we feel like we match with. There's that initial fire, and then just through human behavior, like the tribalism, we start to build more and more responsibilities and dependence on each other, which takes away a lot of the the intimacy, like the spontaneity
Yep.
in things. Like the catalyst to resentment is often monotony. Yeah, and once there's resentment in a relationship, then there's automatically codependence in that relationship. And the more codependence we have in a relationship, the less fire there is.
Yep. It's something I've talked about, and it's actually, so I surveyed 100 of my closest mates. They're obviously super close mates. No. I surveyed a bunch of guys that I know and got them to ask me some questions that for you, and certainly one of them was around, and it's something that I guess we've experienced as well. It's like, when we started the business together, you start working together, you become quite a good partnership. And when you have kids and stuff like that, you're working, it feels more like a partnership or a colleague than a relationship. And you can really, like, I guess it's not a slippery slope, but it's a channel that's not necessarily going in the right direction.
Nobody wants to date themselves.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And as you start to get into that intertwinement, then you do start to copy each other's behaviors and patterns.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Do you? Yeah, I guess that's the biggest one, right? Is what's some of the I guess some of the symptoms or some of the challenges or some of the things that you can work through around that, changing that relationship from partnership to back to sort of relationship.
I guess self-discovery, like starting to develop your own life, your own passions, your own pleasure.
Yep.
We work with a lot of people around bringing self-pleasure into their life and into their relationship that they have with themselves before that they can, connect with their partner.
Yeah.
There's this old saying, like, if you can't love yourself, then how the fuck are you going to love anybody else?
Yeah.
It goes the same way with intimacy. If you can't be intimate and connect with yourself on a deeper level, then that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Is to figure out what the block is going on with us to start develop ourselves as humans, as an individual, so that we can start living more interdependently rather than codependently. And there's also risks around being independent in a relationship and having a lack of connection there. So
one of the guys who's done some coaching in different spaces sort of was talking to me about this, like three different sort of relationships. The sort of things. It's like you've got the H, which is like this, obviously, like capital H. You've got the A, which is like that with the connection in between, and then I think there was the L's, which is like just like that. So there's no connection. So you're both sort of going in your own sort of separate directions, and there's no connection. There's like the A frame, which is sort of like real codependency, and then there's sort of like the H, which is like you're sort of going in your own direction. You've got your own path, but you're also connected. So that's a really cool way of like sort of assessing kind of your relationship. Is like, cool, like, are you like super dependent on that person, or are you sort of, you're both going in the same direction? You're moving towards something together. And I feel like a lot of the guys that I've come into contact with are certainly sort of in that space. They're kind of they're connected, but they're not really deeply connected.
There's a really big, fantastic tool around knowing what your attachment styles is. There's a thing called the attachment theory. And depending on how we're being parented, or the example of relationships was that we experienced growing up, will develop a certain attachment style. So knowing what your attachment style is in relationships can be really, really powerful to know how you're turning up. And once you have an awareness around these things, then you've got the capacity to change if you so desire. And then there's fantastic tools around, mutually appreciating each other again for your independence. Like for you being, a quality version of you. Like there's the love languages. There's just so many cool things.
Heaps of tools.
There's so many cool things that move the needle in those 1% back towards a passionate, intimate relationship. And as you said, like even in the past month or two that you and I have been chatting, like you and Sam have experienced a new season, I guess, in your relationship. So, there's a big thing that I notice around people who have children, that we or they get really career driven, or they're trying to reach a project together, a mutual project, whether that mutual project's raising a kid or starting a business or building a house, that they're like, yep, we're a great team, we can do this together. And they put that intimate connection in a drawer and just put it to one side, and with the hope that in better days, when we have more time, that we'll just open the drawer and pull that connection out again, and we'll just fire off. But it doesn't work like that. Like, you need to keep that fire stoked. There's always ways to rebuild it if there's a willingness, but often, as you and I have spoken to so many men who have had, relationships that have ended or transitioned, it's often the case where, and there's some statistics around like how many relationships that end are initiated by the female.
Yeah, it's like 80% or 70% or something like that.
It's huge. Yeah. That us in our stoicness, in our caveman mind, are like, just do the course. Do the things. And the feminine mind is more like, this doesn't feel good for me anymore. I'm out. And the evidence I've seen over the years is that it's not going to change. So I'm sick of waiting. So you gotta do the things. You gotta change things up, and you gotta try different and new things consistently.
Can you tell me a little bit about the attachment style stuff? Because there's a few questions from some of the boys around, I guess understanding, this is new language for a lot of people. What's the attachment styles really quickly? And I think one of the questions was sort of around like, how do you navigate when your attachment styles, what role do attachment styles play in a relationship? And then, what happens when you kind of have people who are clashing or match differently, or, whatever, opposite ends of the spectrum, I guess.
I guess the biggest thing is to educate yourself on them. For one, there's an incredible resource. There's a book called Polysecure by an incredible author called Jessica Fern. And she talks all about the attachment theory when it comes to open relating. However, this book is so valuable to anybody that's relating. And if you were to change your frame of reference from open relating to being like, non-monogamy, to simply being the fact that even in a monogamous relationship, we still have multiple relationships going on around us. Like the relationship that you have with running your business, with your children, with your, if you had one, your ex-wife, your boss. Like we're all managing multiple relationships whilst we're trying to manage our romantic relationship. And it applies in the fact that if you're romantic, your primary romantic relationship is in conflict or struggling, or maybe not quite in flow, how your attachment style, when it comes to those other relationships, can affect that, or can be the tool that you can use to come back together.
What are the attachment styles?
So the attachment styles,
like what are those?
There's a few different versions of it. But to keep it really basic, and I'm not an expert in this field, but we'll call it anxious attachment style. Or avoidant attachment style. They're the two main ones that I see a lot of the time. So an anxious attachment style might look like, I fell in love with you in high school and I chased you all through 20s and then I finally caught you and I'll do anything to keep you. And whatever you ask for, I'll do it. Whether it's in detriment to me or what I really want, I'll do it. If I see there's a struggle, I'll be constantly asking you, is everything okay, babe? What's going on? What's wrong? What can I do? What can I do more? I constantly never feel like I'm good enough, and I'm always having to put more and more skin in the game to try and keep everybody happy.
So that's the anxious.
That would be like a more anxious style of attachment. Can you picture people in your life or men that you've talked to that might?
I guess you see things in yourself as well. Like it might not be like on that scale, on like the end of the scale, but you can definitely see behaviours. With people or with yourself. Whenever people talk about most things, I'm just like, that's why that's why I'm a bit like that, or that's why I sort of feel like that. So
and that might come from the example of if you were growing up and you had like a really anxiously attentive parent, like that helicopter parent that was, constantly, are you okay, babe? Like, oh, you skin your knee. Oh, come and give me a cuddle. Let me give you a pat. Like, that must have hurt so much. You're so brave.
Yeah.
Like, really attentive parenting can often result in that. And then the other side is an avoidant style.
Yeah.
So an avoidant attachment style. So you will avoid pain or conflict at all costs.
Okay.
Avoid vulnerability at all costs. When you see somebody being really vulnerable, it's almost repulsive to you.
Right.
And you'll move yourself away from that.
Yeah, okay.
Even if you've got something that's really, really pissing you off, you'll shovel it down. And sometimes it might come out in unhealthy ways, or it might come out in a really big explosion of emotion and vulnerability in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So you'll avoid attaching your well-being to anybody else or to somebody else, and you'll avoid admitting a lot of the time that where you're at has anything to do with that other person.
Do you feel like that's where, mate, like I just without thinking about it too much, like I feel that's probably a lot of men in that avoidance sort of style, like avoiding having that conversation and thinking it's going to be better, and just like even stuff conversations that I've had with blokes, it's like the unwillingness to explore it a little bit more and just think, oh yeah, it's normal. What is normal? We had that discussion last week. What the heck is normal? So you sort of avoid those because you don't know how to articulate it, right?
Absolutely, you don't know how to articulate it, and it's probably because you've never been modelled that as well. You've been modelled an avoidant attachment style. So you could picture a parenting style being, suck it up. Like, somebody who's like a really high performer, a high performing athlete who gets praise out of performance or gets praise out of getting things right. And no praise otherwise, or no support when they get things wrong. It might be criticism or no comment at all. And it could be even seeing a parent who doesn't really know how to access or deal with vulnerability. Like they might see their kids crying or having a hard time, and they might just back away slowly and let them figure it out. So they've never really been modelled on how to support that level of emotion. So there's different filters on that. Like there's anxious avoidant. There's there's a few different frames to it, but they're the main sort of two. And you can work off that. But there's some incredible resources if you just Google attachment styles and relationships and have a quick read, and your mind will be blown. There's so many different belief systems around it. Like, you can even add star signs to it if you want. Like Capricorns are just, oversharers. So a lot of the time we're going to be, the anxious attachment style because we need to process through our words and we need to have an external feedback to feel like we're on the right track. So there's a few, it's just...
What's a Leo?
A Leo is... avoidant attachment style all the time.
Avoidant.
Why are you avoiding? Because I'm avoidant.
Because I'm a lion.
Yeah, because I'm a fucking lion. Can't touch me. Can't tell me what to do. I'm the king of the jungle, bitch. It's a Leo might be, they want to be center stage. They want the praise. They deserve the praise. They're the star, and they don't want to have to explain themselves to anybody else. They don't want to have to get told what to do, and they don't want to hear how their actions or choices may have affected the vulnerability of somebody else. So it's not making them bad people. They're often very highly performing stars. Like they're really good at what they do. They go after it.
So it's always like anything. Like if you lack the awareness of some of your personality traits or whatever which can impact people negatively, then that's when they become negative. It's like there's nothing wrong with anger and aggression. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No.
But if you channel it poorly, then cool. Now we have an issue.
This is the key to good relationships: is awareness around your modus operandi, your default modes, so that you can, in times of clarity, practice change if it's for you, if it's going to serve you in some way and you have a desire around changing. Having an awareness around what your default behavior is in relationships then gives you the ability to practice other ways, so that in times of stress, when that default's going to come up and kick you in the dick, you have the opportunity to have some other tools under your belt. Like, oh, I might not want to do it that way this time. And even if you do it that way that time again, then you then have the capacity to do a post-mortem on it with your knowledge around how you actually do want to do it. What do I need to do that differently next time?
Yeah, that's really like, I think that's sort of like the stages of, like, I guess some of the around development and around that awareness, right? Is so when you can sort of have that awareness in like after the fact, and then you start having that awareness more closely to after the fact, then you have that awareness in the moment, and then can you catch? Then I guess the trick is like, do you have the awareness to catch yourself before something slips out of your mouth? And then even further back is like, can you catch yourself before you even think that stuff? Like I think that's a huge part of personal development, is like, so something that I've tried to work on a lot is like how I show up for Sam and how when I feel the bear coming out of the cave, like I've said a bunch of times, I have my father, and I love my dad, and he was an amazing dad, probably one of the best guys I know, but I have him in the back of my head going, when Willow's been quite challenging, and saying, if you don't stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. Like, I just have that like burned into my brain, and it's like, I love it, but I don't think it's necessarily the most effective tool. It's sort of just catching myself having that thought, and then actually sort of like I laugh at it now. I just have that little laugh, like when Willow is going off, and I'm just like, if you know, like in my head, I'm like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. And I just laugh at myself, and I'm like, oh, Michael, you're an idiot.
Well, we're all idiots, right?
Yeah.
We know nothing.
No.
And we're all just practicing and playing and fumbling in the dark. We're only here for an experience. We can't kick ourselves too hardly for experiencing it from a place of the evidence of what we've got up until this point. We've been studying human behavior since we could note it down. The ancient Greeks, we still talk about the ancient Greek studies of human behavior to this day. However, we're not taught it in school. We're taught maths and English and science. We're taught the bare basics of things, because that's what we need to be able to survive and keep society moving forwards. Society moving forwards doesn't have like a holistic approach to society being successful, having successful, healthy relationships. Maybe it should. But we're not taught this shit, so we don't know.
100%.
There's an incredible book that I read called The Way of the Superior Man.
Oh,
David Dieter. What a great book. Hey?
If you there's probably the two most impactful books that I've read around men, and I think every man and every woman should read, women included, is The New Manhood by Steve Biddulph. He's the same guy who wrote Raising Boys, Raising Girls. He's written a bunch of other books as well. I think Raising Boys has probably got the most acclaim, but The New Manhood is such a simple read, and it just he just talks so simply about men, masculinity, and all that sort of stuff, and I guess kind of shows you the pathway of how we got to where we are. And then the David Dieter one, the Way of the Superior Man, is absolutely it's a real, I think it's like a spiritual guide to sex and something like that, and it sounds really woo woo, but it's not really. It's like super to the point. He's so direct, and sort of like the way it's framed is like, I guess he sort of expresses a thought or an idea, which is like in a paragraph,
and then he gives
and it sounds really controversial. And because I've spoken to a few women about it, I'm like, what do you think about? I read it to Sam. I'm like, what do you think about this? And she's like, oh, geez, I don't know about that. And then you read what he talks about, and you're like, oh my god, that makes so much sense.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely and he talks about like the masculine role is, like how like our role as men, or the masculine part of us in raising up the feminine and
Yeah.
and not, but it's not about power or control. It's like we are actually here to support the feminine.
Yeah. And in a way, he is talking about attachment styles in that. There's an example. I found it challenging as well because, like, Sindra and I, in our relationship, we open relate with people and we both identify as queer. So we've had relationships with men and women, women and women, men and men. And so I read it first, or listened to it, and then when we were going on a holiday, we listened to it again.
Yeah.
And we had to pause it on all of his examples. And Sindra would be like, that's bullshit.
Yeah, being super triggered.
And I'd be like, hold on, wait. Let me reframe it. What about like 2 nights ago when the same thing happened for us? but what it looked like was this and this, and every time she'd be like, "Yeah, he's right. This is really good."
Yeah,
and continue on. But it was triggering for a reason.
Yeah,
because it's real life, and we always think. I think like a lot of us are challenged by the fact that there's been so many fucking people on this planet since we popped up, yet so many of us act in similar ways that enough that we can study it and create a belief system around, like, there's this type, this type, this type, this type.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are like, bullshit, you can't explain me. And then when you start explaining it, you're like, oh yeah, that's totally,
damn it, he got me again.
That's me. But in that book, there's an example where he talks about like, almost talks about attachment styles. There's an example where he says, if you were to come home from work and you just made $1 million that day.
Yeah.
And you came home and you'd be like, babe, I made $1 million today.
Yeah.
Fucking slayed.
Yeah.
And your partner says, yeah, but you didn't get the milk.
Yeah. I love that example.
You didn't get the milk.
Yeah.
Babe, like, for fuck's sake, I can't make dinner with the milk. The kids have got no breakfast. Like, good on you, big guy.
Yeah.
You didn't get the milk.
Yeah.
And if you'd fold in that point and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, babe. I'll go and get it right now. I'm really like, I'm such an idiot. I'm placate. And you have that anxious attachment style compared to scooping her up, throwing her on the couch and say, I'll give you some fucking milk, babe. And teasing and making it a joke and, pulling your masculinity into it.
Yeah.
Or be like, I'll get milk in a second, but right now I'm celebrating my $1 million. Come here.
Yeah.
And squeeze me.
Yeah.
And break their feminine down with love, with like unflinching love.
Yeah. Don't be sort of,
So many people of us will flinch the love towards ourselves in that moment.
Yeah.
And want to play like deprecate, be like, such a dickhead. I'm so sorry. Or get angry at your partner. Like, why can't you ever fucking...
Yeah, be happy for me. Like, be happy for us. Like, I just did this thing.
Yeah, if the love doesn't flinch,
then
it's going to break down the conflict every single time.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it's a great book.
Fascinating. And what was the other book? So you mentioned another book to me this morning.
She Comes First.
She Comes First.
By Ian Kerner.
Yeah, right.
Every single man on this planet in this lifetime needs to read The Way of the Superior Man and She Comes First.
Yeah, right.
If you're relating with women, that is.
Yeah.
There's another... If you're relating with men, or even if you are a man, the male version of it is called Passionista.
Yep.
But both books explain the female pleasure anatomy.
Yep.
And how things work, how long things take, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, the myths, the bullshit.
Right.
Different tools, and it's got like play-by-plays.
Yeah.
Which is very handy for the masculine mind. We love...
Particularly for those engineers out there.
Yeah, for those guys that like the data and like an instruction manual.
Yeah.
It's literally an instruction manual. There's like a beginner's, intermediate, and expert manual at the end of it. Like this...
Do you reckon blokes will be just like, I don't need the... It's like, we don't need the instruction manual.
If you're saying that,
you're an
then
idiot.
you need the manual. If you're like, I'm already maestro at giving head, then give it a whirl. Quick story about this. When I first started dating Sindra, she'd been with women for 10 years.
Yep.
Right? And my previous partners hadn't really been that into... like oral sex at all.
Yep.
And so we went on our first date together, got our kid off, it was great, fireworks going off. Then all of a sudden when we're in our skivvies, I was like, oh God, she's been getting like probably really good head for 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just got like really, really, I had a moment.
Yeah.
and I was like wet spaghetti. I could not get it up.
Right.
Just like panicked, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't know what I'm doing." I was trying things and doing weird stuff, and I could see it. I could just like feel her eyes rolling, like, not in a good way. Just like, "Oh God, when's this kind of stuff?"
Yeah.
And anyway, things got better and started to work, and I still wanted to be better. So I read the book twice. Once on the way to Lithgow for work, and once on the way back.
Yeah, right.
And I was so excited to get home, and I rang her and I was like, "Oh, babe, I'm about to blow your mind." She's like, "Oh God, you can't show me anything. Like, I've been doing this for a while now."
Yeah.
And it was Squirt City, and it was a good time. And she now recommends that book to women all over the way, because like, if you don't know how your own pleasure anatomy works, and how the fuck can you expect to ask anybody else to help you out with it?
Yep.
So
we should. He mentioned fumbling around the darkness before.
Yeah.
It's probably a good segue. So to talk about some funny stuff, we'll try and get through a couple of questions real quick. Role of masturbation in a healthy relationship. Huge. And you talked about pleasure and that stuff like that before, and I've had that comment from a couple of women as well, as like, needing, like, the women, I guess, finding their own pleasure and understanding their own pleasure as much as us exploring that pleasure with them.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, to go deep on it quickly, it comes down to the self-worth piece. Like, you think about the typical way you would picture, I would picture a lot of men out there masturbating would be kind of a little bit shameful, in the dark, or when everybody's out of the house, or in the shower, like super quick, the door closed, whatever the dirtiest porn is that you can find to get you off as quick as possible. And it's that monkey version, like, we've all seen the videos of the monkey at the zoo, totally bent over, like front of the body closed off, full of tension, just beating themselves senseless as quick as they can to get it away. And
before the kids come in,
you're almost beating yourself up. In a way. Like, there's no expansion, there's no breath, there's no feeling to it. And I picture it like, self-pleasure doesn't have to be touching your genitals. Self-pleasure can just be anything that you do for yourself that gives you bodily pleasure. For example, I like to put a metaphor to it. I love a long hot shower. Like, love it. Turn the heat right up. Lean against the wall. Turn around. Let it fall on my body. Sometimes, like, move around in the shower. Have a dance. Have a beer. Like, touch myself if I want to. Like, almost drown myself in the water. Like, just letting it fall over my face. Everywhere. Roll my neck around underneath the hot water. That's something that I get a lot of pleasure out of. However, when I'm in a rush, or I feel like I don't deserve it, I'm in and out, and it's like crutch, crack, and pits. And I'm out.
Done.
However, it would only take me 30 seconds. I'm going to give myself more pleasure out of that one simple act. And the same goes for masturbation or self-pleasure. Is that if it's giving yourself pleasure, then why can't you make an extra couple of minutes to make it actually pleasurable? Like, open your front body, like David Dieter talks about in the book. Like, open your front body, bring tension out of your body, breathe with it. And the way that it transforms an intimate relationship is that, as in sport, we play the way that we practice. You see a lot of the guys who can't get it up because they're used to watching the filthiest porn that they can get their eyes on. Like every single time they'll look at their, like, core erotic fantasy. Whatever it is, that's what they'll search out. They can find 100,000 videos of it. But their partner or their bedroom might not look anything like that. So their neuro pathways aren't wired to find that erotic. They might be getting in the shower and they've got 30 seconds before the kids come in. And
so you replicate that in the bedroom.
They replicate it, and they can't. They can't last long enough. Same with women. Like, if they've only got a short period of time and they're getting the vibrator and turning up to 10,000, then how are they going to experience pleasure or even know their body,
Yep.
like their internal anatomy or external
Yeah,
anatomy,
yeah.
all of their erogenous zones.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
the same with guys. Like we've got this huge erogenous zone on the tip of our cock
Yep.
that if you put friction on it, it does the thing.
Yep.
However, we've got like our erogenous zones around our groin,
Yep.
around our nipples, like around our collarbones,
Yep.
around your butt crack, that underneath of your butt crease
Yep.
is really erogenous.
Yep.
And whilst you're exploring those parts of your body, you're getting to know yourself better.
Yep.
Then you have the opportunity to pass that on to your partner.
Yeah, yeah.
Be like, oh, it actually feels really good when you pair this with this.
Yep.
That feels really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Or can we slow it down a little bit? I find that it'll last longer if I breathe deeper and slow down.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you don't just have to think of dead cats and stuff like that. You can actually enjoy the moment.
Exactly. So
don't avoid it.
The way that it's perceived by the masculine ego a lot of the time is if we think that our partner is masturbating, we think, are we not good enough?
Yeah, yeah.
Why haven't you asked me to be a part of it? I love sex.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're not having sex, but you're off masturbating.
Yeah.
Like, what's the go with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like you think that it's dirty when, I pull my pud, but you're in there, getting into it with a big glass dildo. So what does that mean about me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But when you start to see it as you both building that eroticism within yourself before you have to give it away to somebody, or somebody's taking it from you, which is a lot of the thing that we hear from females is that, I do so much and now I've just got to, it's just one other thing I've got to do.
Yeah.
Or they just want to grab at me or take something from me.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you find that eroticism within yourself to be able to give to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you find you know yourself so well and you educate yourself on pleasure tools that you really want to give that pleasure to somebody rather than just knocking one out real quick for the month, the weekly run.
Yeah, yeah. Is there and that book would probably talk about it, like what would be the average like length for guys to ejaculate? What would be is there a range?
It's anywhere between I'm not expert on the stats, but it's anywhere between 4 to 9 minutes, 4 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that like full go for 4 minutes, or is that?
Yeah.
I know it's been a while. It's been a while since I timed myself.
Yeah, and we don't. But I think the average is pretty short. It's less than 15 minutes, pretty much.
So it's probably more than the 3 minutes that most blokes give themselves credit for.
Exactly. Yeah.
But not much longer.
But we all know that if we're left to a dark room with our filthy minds, then we can probably knock one out heaps quicker than that.
Yeah.
I haven't met anybody yet who's better at touching me than me.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I've got the speed record for Luke Sears. No one's going to get that.
The world land speed record.
Absolutely. And even women, it's the same. Like you can have a woman who can get herself to climax within 4 minutes. However, when it comes to partnered sex, it's the same with guys. To be crass about it, if I was to give myself a hand job, like I said, I make it happen. Whereas if somebody else is trying to do it, it becomes more difficult to get to climax.
Seems to be just the angles just work better.
Yeah, angles, speed. No one's quick. No one grabs it as hard as I do.
Just the right weight.
Yeah.
What's the I lost it.
That's okay. But then if you were to transfer that over, say for that same example, if somebody else was to touch me, I wouldn't get there as quickly. But for me to get there as such, I would have to start just enjoying the pleasure, the feeling, the sensation, the hotness that it's actually happening, that somebody's touching me, and that they want to give me pleasure. And all of a sudden I get more presence in the moment. And why can't you? And it's really hot. How much hotter is it to say I got a hand job off somebody else than I beat myself senseless in the shower?
Significantly, I would imagine.
Yeah. So why can't we bring that to ourselves? Be more present. Slow down.
Yeah.
Grab it. Don't grab it as hard.
Yeah.
Try different things.
Yeah.
That aren't specifically going to get us to the big O, but it's going to give more pleasure. So that's how it can benefit a relationship, because you're being more present
Yep.
and you're appreciating the intimacy more
Yep.
than the goal of sex or orgasm.
Yeah. What do you think? So it's more of a reflection. So when I send out a bunch of messages and a bunch of guys come back with, I'm like, oh, I'm jumping on a podcast with Luke. He does this intimacy relationship stuff. If you had the opportunity, what questions would you ask? Like, is there any questions that you'd ask? And a bunch of guys are like, oh, nah, nothing really comes to mind. And I'm like, are you effing serious?
Yeah.
Like, and what? A couple of boys I went, that's absolute bullshit. Like, there is nothing that you would like. You were talking to me this morning about being a bit of an expert in the female anatomy, teaching women and stuff like that as well. It's like, man, like, really, there's nothing that you would ask. Like, what do you think's going on there?
Ego, and just the lack of education in youth around it.
Yeah.
There's a few things. Like, it's just one of those things as a man that for some fucked up reason we don't think that we should have to ask for advice on. We should just know intrinsically.
Yeah.
Like how to do these things.
Yeah.
And how to be that passionista,
Yeah.
as well as being stoic, as well as knowing how to be vulnerable,
Yeah.
as well as knowing how to navigate conflict, and all of the other things that we would more than happily go and see a counsellor for.
Yeah.
However, to go and see an expert on pleasure and intimacy, some reason we have a block around like having to ask for help. We should just know.
Yeah.
And there's the ego around being to this certain age before we actually ask.
Yeah.
It's like going down that path of, I don't know, just the path of fucking something up. Like all of a sudden you get so far along that you're like, I can't ask for help now. I've done it too much.
I've gone too far down the road.
And it's like, I'm 35 and now I'm asking for, like, that just means that people or my partner or that person's going to know that I've been a flop for.
Imagine what the last 15 years could have been like.
Exactly. That's the contrast. Like, well, I may as well learn now rather than,
imagine what the next 15 years could be like.
Yeah, rather than, someone's going to judge me or I'm going to judge myself for not
being
very good up until now.
Yeah.
I speak from experience. Like, I was doing the same 3 moves for 15 years. And for some reason, I thought that if I just kept doing them, then a world of pleasure would open up.
Just doing better. Just keep doing them better.
Just keep doing them better. Like, with your eyes closed, maybe with your eyes shut up. More tense, less tense.
More glutes.
Faster, slower, more turbo, less turbo. It was never less turbo. But I was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to talk to anybody about masturbating. I didn't want my partner to masturbate.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted it to be us and us to do the things and it to be magical.
Yeah. But you've done nothing to do the work to make it magical. Like, it's like something that I said we've spoken about is like someone in the relationship has to either have the knowledge or be curious enough to ask the question.
Yep.
And to open up that conversation, and for me, and this is not for all of the guys that sort of replied, no, I'm good. I kind of feel as though maybe they're just a bit nervous about it. Maybe they think that some of this stuff is like super weird or like it's not for them, and it's like what I'm discovering is like if you can't even ask the question, like just asking the question like just opens up a whole level of uncomfortableness, but a whole new level of connection with your partner. And even if you don't go down a certain route of something that's taboo or different or unique or weird, that you perceive as weird, and then you have a go and it's like you have a laugh about it, that's just such a deeper level of connection and in your relationship. And we talk about relationships to partnerships, it's like, well, yeah, because you tried something together, you did something together, it's a shared experience, you had a laugh about it, what best case scenario, you have the best orgasm you've ever had in your life. Worst case scenario, no one dies,
you've deepened your connection.
You've deepened your connection with your partner. It's like,
and you know each other more deeply.
Yeah, you've done something. It's like, no, that wasn't for me. I didn't like it there, or I didn't like that was. Yeah, that was weird.
I think we struggle to transfer our evidence over as well when it comes to sex.
Yeah.
And we put a lot more. We take sexual experiences a lot more seriously than other life experiences.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to put that, you play the way that you train. Like anyone that's done team sports heard that.
I love that. You play the way you train. I'm going to use that so much now.
Yeah, and I've heard that so many times from coaches
Wow.
throughout my life. But then there's nothing in me that until I worked with a sex coach that transferred that knowledge and that evidence from practicing new things, trying new things. All right, we've done that drill 100 times. We're going to do this new drill now. All right, well, actually, that's a new skill that I've got now. Nothing in me transferred that over to relationships and intimacy until somebody told me about it.
Yeah.
The same with sexual experiences that we get really scared to peek through the curtain of curiosity because we've got no evidence of what life looks like on the other side of the curtain. What if we can't come back?
Because blokes won't talk about it.
No. What if we can't come back? What if I try that new thing and my whole life changes and it's not a good change? But it's an experience. That's what we're here for.
Here to experience.
Some people are really comfortable with their comfortable sex. They like it. They're like, well, if I try that new thing, what if my partner, that's all that they want? I kind of like missionary. It's same with, first time you want to try threesome, for example. And I remember the first time Sindra organised a threesome with this brilliant couple who's become friends with us. We see them all the time, going for walks. It's hilarious. And she parked up out the front of their house and she was in tears. She's like, I don't know if I can do this, babe. And I was like, oh, you've already met up with them a bunch of times. They're really great people. What's the worst that can happen? You get in there and you realise that you don't want to do it. Or you get to the end and you're like, oh, that's not everything that I thought it was going to be. And you come home. That's an experience. Or you go in there and it's the best sex of your life. Either way, you can turn around home right now. I've got a bottle of wine in the fridge. I've got a spag bowl on the stove. And we can come home and do us. But you won't get to experience that.
That's one of the questions from one of the boys was, are threesomes all they're cracked up to be?
Can be.
Can be.
Depends. That's what I'm trying to say. It can be. And it cannot be.
Because it's like, I think you'd be hard pressed to find too many blokes who haven't fantasized about it or thought about it or it being part of their lots of chat about it when you're young, particularly. It's the ultimate.
Lots of porn around it. Lots of fantasies around it. You have lots of couples that will be like, what's your fantasy? Oh, like I really want to see my wife with another woman. Or, I want to see my wife's holes filled, or whatever it might be. It's just the taboo because it's not normally achievable in everyday life, and it's hot.
How achievable is it
nowadays? More achievable. Depending on how willing you are to be resourceful about it. There's some great apps. One's called Field. Dating app, like specifically for people who have like non-traditional relationships. Red Hot Pie is like a swingers app. Again, just like all of the dating apps, you've got to sift through the kaleidoscope of society to find somebody that you're willing to connect with. But it's achievable. Depends on how attractive you are.
Usually how it rolls.
I don't know. Cinder and I have been talking about sex and intimacy and open relating for a long time. That it seems to be achievable for us.
But depends what circles you run in.
It depends what your proximity is.
And is it all that's cracked up to be?
Pretty good time. I've only had good times doing it. It's never ever going to be your fantasy. It can depend on like where.
So it's not like the ultimate. It's not the pinnacle.
Oh, I've had just as incredible, amazing intimacy with just one person. I've had some incredible, mind-blowing intimacy just with myself. So it's not a pinnacle. However, it's incredibly expansive in the same way that open relating is in the challenges that it can present and the growth that it can present as well.
Yeah, I guess I kind of feel like the growth is probably more like personal development in ego and like whether it's attachment theory or whatever it is, like there's just so much self-worth and questions like that tied up in something like that.
It can be if you can't get past the sexual charge to things.
Yeah.
So that's where I was going with this is, say, for example, somebody contacted you and said, I'll use me as an example. Somebody contacted me and said, hey, look, we want you to come and talk at our seminar.
Yep.
I didn't know a bar about them.
Yep.
But I was like, yep, good opportunity. Sounds good.
Yep.
When do I need to be there? I get there. Within 2 seconds, I realised that all of the people in the room are not my people.
Yep.
I should not have come to this event.
Yep.
I should not have talked here. And this is not the exposure that I want for my business.
Yep.
I do the talk. I get out of there and I think, fuck, that's a really good lesson. I need to vet these things. I need to fill into it, do a little bit of research, do the things.
Yeah.
Make sure it's for me.
Yeah.
Compared to in the past, how I would have thought about something that was edgy and expansive sexually.
Yeah.
I would have been terrified of the fact that it might not have worked out the way that I wanted it to be, or that it might have been the way I fantasized it or pitched it, or that it might have challenged me in some way because there's sex involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, like I said to Sindra that time, what if you just go and give it a whirl?
Yeah.
And if it's a bad time, then it's a bad time. If it's a good time, it's a good time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, she came out of that experience with a lot of feedback around things. It's like, oh yeah, it's pretty hot. That's cool, but it's not exactly what I wanted. It's not exactly what I think next time I'll do. I'll look for this, and this.
Yeah.
But she would never have gotten to the point where the experiences that we've had since then, and she's had on her own, and I've had on my own, if we didn't start practicing.
Yep. Biggest lesson from today? Practice. Play how you practice. You play how you practice. What was it?
Yeah, you play how you practice.
No, it was put better than that. You put it better than that. You play how you train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Play how you train. All you men out there, you play how you train. So start training better.
Start training more consciously.
Yeah.
Take the time. Talk if you're in a place with your partner. This is some unsolicited advice to all of the listeners. And you want to deepen your intimate connection.
Yep.
One, it starts with communication.
Yeah.
You have to start communicating. You have to be brave, bold enough to do it.
Yeah.
And I wrote something down today for this. It was so wise.
You're so wise, Luke.
No, it was so wise.
Profound?
Are
we going to quote you like Buddha?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you're going to do. If I can find it. Oh, so wisdom precludes boldness.
Yep.
Yeah, so if we think that we've got it all figured out, then we're never going to be bold enough to expand.
Yep.
So if you can be bold enough to start communicating, hey, do you want to explore a bit?
Yeah.
Do you want to play? What that might look like is you and me getting to know our own bodies a little bit better.
Yeah.
So we might have to take a bit more time to pleasure ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you need anything for that? Oh yeah, I've been looking on the Yoni Pleasure Palace at this, crystal pleasure wand.
Yeah.
Cool, let's do it. Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about getting a fleshlight because I've heard that they're really good for training stamina.
Yeah.
No, sweet. Let's do it. Let's start planning some time in to do it. Okay, well, how about we plan a little play party on Saturday when the kids are over at Mum's house so that we can have a bit of a fool around with what we learn.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let's do it. So that communication builds connection. Yeah. Oh, I feel connected. We're in a shared challenge. We're going to do this cool thing together.
A lot of people doing a lot of Googling right now because I didn't understand those terms either. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden there's intimacy.
Yep.
Because you're practicing the communication, the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want sexual intimacy, you need to start with non-sexual intimacy. More touch.
Yep.
More holds, more love, more words of affirmation, more of the love languages.
Yep. 100%.
Build up to the intimacy.
Beautiful.
Start sharing fantasies and desires again.
Yeah, it's my, we're going to do a heap more of these, but it's really my goal to, I'd love for some feedback, but I'd love couples to listen to this and just listen to what I guess Luke's saying and start the conversation with each other. Like if this can trigger a conversation, it's like, oh, have you actually, one of the questions was like, how do you broach the subject of your fantasies or your fetishes with your partner?
Yeah, kinks.
Yeah, how do you start that conversation? It's like, well, I guess you need to be bold enough to just ask and just start the conversation. So
practice how you play,
yeah.
and you also we all need to be having more conversations outside of the bedroom about sex than what we have inside of the bedroom.
Yeah.
I've talked to so many guys that once the lights are off, they will try the filthiest shit.
Yeah, right.
But there's no way that in the kitchen they'd be able to have a conversation with their partner like, hey, would you like me to try sticking...
Oh, 100%, hey.
Yeah. Would you like me to try sticking my thumb in your butt? Oh, no, I'll just surprise you with it.
It's in the dark.
In the dark. Like, no, you can't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
It will never work.
Yeah, right.
We need to practice boundaries and consent, conversations, fantasies, desires, kinks, all this stuff outside of the bedroom.
Yeah.
And then there's some really, really cool ways to bridge those conversations into real life, which we can talk about later on.
Talk about that another time.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you heaps, mate. Appreciate your time. We'll be back for more. Thanks for listening to the Junto Men's Podcast. Our mission is to share high quality information for regular blokes who either want to be better or who might be going through some tough stuff. We really hope you got some value out of listening today. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So if you did get some value out of today, we'd love it if you left us a comment. We read them all, you shared it with a mate, or even gave us a 5-star review. We love getting those. If any of what we have spoken about today was interesting to you and you'd like to know more about what we're about and what we do, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or on our website from the links in the notes. We'll hopefully talk to you soon. Cheers.